Hi guys, this is an impromptu video as something came up today that I just couldn't resist. I was actually out searching for a birthday card for my wife, and as is always my habit, when I'm searching for something for the wife I end up finding something for myself instead. So without further ado, and I did do a quick search. I've only found one other person who's done a video on this, so I will link to his, and as always I have my own flavour to this. The thing that I had to pick up for myself because it was reduced and because it's just so damn awesome is this. Look at this. So this is the Haynes, the driving games manual. So for those of you that are not car nuts, just to explain why this is a cool thing, Haynes do manuals for cars, maintenance manuals, operation manuals, and they are the name globally for that kind of work. And their manuals are actually really expensive to buy and cover pretty much every known make and model known to man. And they're an industry standard. But recently they've sort of gone into a bit of a niche market, and they've started doing things like you can get the Haynes manual for the Millennium Falcon, for example, and for the Starship Enterprise and stuff like that. So they've started to branch out with a bit of tongue-in-cheek humour, and most of their stuff has the exact same sort of schematic style front cover to the book. This one clearly does not, but I had to pick it up anyway. Now, why did I have to pick this up? Because I once swore blind, and I swear this is on video as well, I once swore blind that I would never go collecting stuff for the sake of something to do on YouTube. I did have a flick through this, and as I flicked through it I thought, no, do you know what, I have to buy this. I was just going to add it to my birthday and Christmas list, because even though I'm mid-40s I am still childish enough to have such a thing. And do you know what, I couldn't risk putting this on a list and nobody buying it for me. So what's going to happen after today is, after I've done this cheeky video, is my wife will steal it away from me again, and I'll have to wait until my birthday or Christmas to actually see it again. But you know, let's ruin the surprise for myself, and you know, like you do, let's have a quick look through, and you'll see why I just simply had to buy this. Because as we flick through, I mean, you get a bit of a hint right there as to what sort of treats are in store. It has a lot of stuff. Now, the other video that I found on this was an English guy, and he's going through lots of stuff as how they start going into different sound techniques and graphics techniques and stuff like that. I just want to have a flick through and go, played that, loved that kind of thing. That's exactly what I'm going to do here. A bit of an introduction. You can get a bit of a hint as to how retro this goes. So that to me looks like Outrun. Well, it goes under several names, doesn't it? Outrun Coast to Coast. Let's have a flick through. Outrun Coast to Coast, Outrun 2016. We've got Super Mario Kart there. This is one of my all-time favorite games. So this is that on the screen? Yes, it is. So this is Lotus Turbo for the ZX Spectrum. That is sort of a precursor to the GTA series. You get a whole map, a city map, several cities actually, to drive through, and you can choose when you go left, right. The controls are very simplified, but the idea is you have to find these drug dealer cars or criminal cars, and you have to actually take them off the road, and you have to do things like stop at traffic lights and, you know, indicate left and right depending on where you're going at junctions and all that kind of stuff. Absolutely love this game. Can't wait to play that again when I get my hands on a Spectrum Plus 3 again, and then get this on cassette, because I had this on cassette and loaded via the external aux. Super Mario Kart for the SNES, I mean, that's a must-have. Me and my nephew did a thing we called Green Shell Attack, you know, the multiplayer map that is just like a square with an inner track and another inner track. We would just launch green shells so that they just ping-ponged around the track, and it was sort of an unwritten rule that that's the only weapon you could use effectively. If you had a green shell, you had to fire it in the outer track and just let them bounce around. It was hilarious. That looks like pole position to me. Not sure about that. Is that one of the early Gran Turismos? Not sure. What have we got? This to me looks like Indianapolis 500, which I had on the Amiga. I could be wrong, but that's certainly what that looks like at a glance to me. And again, had that, played that for hours, started getting into tweaking the suspension, the wings and all that kind of setup. Never did it very well, and I don't think I ever completed that race. And apparently I've got to go to dinner, so I'll stop this soon, but not yet. There we go. It's one of my boys has just cooked dinner. Beautiful. What else have we got? Don't recognise anything there. Is that? No, that's later. It's not Nigel Mansell, is it? No. See, I'm purposely not bothering to read things. I'm just going to have a quick flick through. If you're into driving games and you're into cars, this is worth picking up 100%. That looks like is that a Atari 2600 game? Maybe not actually. Oh, Grand Track. There we go. Atari. That was. It's not something I played. I've got a flashback side-loaded with a 1001 game, so I dare say if it exists, I have it. But unless it's a paddle game, I don't have any of the paddle games, so possibly it's paddle game. What else have we got here? Let's have a quick flick through. I don't want to waste too much of your time, but I know there's some gems in here. Here we go. My #1 favourite of all time. Let's face it, after you played this back in the day, this was the yardstick for every other game. I see Chase HQ listed here. Outrun was just phenomenal. Such a shame we never got a good home port, but of course you can now just run the actual thing via emulation, so that's great. In fact, when I saw the new version on the Switch, Nintendo Switch, it was like, oh, if there was ever an excuse to get a Nintendo Switch. But actually, do you know what? I'd probably get the GBA version, is it? Or the DS version, a lot cheaper way in. That looks like Pole Position. Pole Position, played that to death in the local sports centre up in the cafeteria. So my memories of Pole Position, to be honest, I have the smell of chlorine comes into mind because I'd have just come out of the showers, dried myself off, probably still have a wet head, being told by the teacher that it's time to go back to school, and there I was playing Pole Position. What else we got? Buggy Boy. So my only experience of Buggy Boy, to be honest, was on the Amiga. I didn't particularly like it. There's a video on my channel on that if you want to run that. But Outrun is so good. It's the best driving game ever. There's a street I can go to work via. Look at Outrun. This is a manual focus camera, so I won't be able to do that too much. That has the ocean on the one side and it has palm trees on the other. No, actually, sorry, I lie. It has a river on one side and palm trees on the other, but every time I drive down there, two things spring to mind. One is Outrun and the other is Beverly Hills Cop because of the palm trees. Had it on the Spectrum, played through it on the Spectrum actually. I actually didn't mind the Spectrum version once you got used to how slow it was. Outrun is just phenomenal. If only we got that kind of Testarossa representation on the Amiga and it ran at twice the frame rate that it did, it would be great. Chase HQ, weird things about Chase HQ. Okay, first time I ever played Chase HQ was in a motorway service station, and the thing that blew me away about Chase HQ was not the fact that you could smash into the other cars. That was awesome and that's how you won the game, but for me it was the fact that when you went into a tunnel and you scraped against the wall, you actually got sparks flying out from the side of your car. Little details like that were just awesome. These two. I kid you not. Hard driving is what taught me how to drive a car. Absolutely 100%, because you had the accelerator, brake and clutch. I'm talking about the arcade now, obviously. And you had to start the car, and you know, if you weren't very good at it, you would actually have a few attempts to start the car, make sure you got the clutch in, foot on the brake, turn the key, that kind of thing. And so I knew how to the fundamentals of starting a car and controlling a car before my dad let me have a go in a car park in his Volvo 240, which wasn't quite the same as the virtual representation of a Ferrari Testarossa that we had in Stunt Car Racer. Love this to this day because of that. It's a hated game for most because it was ridiculously difficult for the day. I absolutely loved it. Was never very good at it on the arcade. Got better on the Amiga, but that had its own different challenges. Talking of Amiga though, Stunt Car Racer. Me and my mate Steve, we had a homemade 12-foot long RS-232 cable or null modem cable, and so we'd link up our machines and play head to head, usually on either F-16 Combat Pilot, sometimes RUF, which is RUF, which is a motorbike game, but a lot of the time was spent on Stunt Car Racer. Absolutely phenomenal game. I got really good at sort of taking the corner, so you're sort of scraping the edge on the inside corner, damages your car, but it gives you a bit of a shortcut, and just boosting through. There we go, there's Indianapolis 500. So I've already talked about that. Super Monaco didn't really play too much. Formula 1 Grand Prix, is that the Micro... No, so that's not the Micro Pros version, okay. That looks like the Micro Pros version. Still looks a bit too up to date, but I do remember Microprose Grand Prix on the Amiga was a great game as well, renowned for having skid marks, realistic damage, and the ability to customize the look of your car and the look of your driver's helmet, and rename all the drivers and all of those kind of things. Really good stuff. Some Ridge Racer, Need for Speed. Never even played Daytona. Oh, I remember a party playing Daytona on the Sega Saturn. I played it in the arcades, loved it in the arcades, but I was at this party. I do not drink and drive. I love driving and I like drinking, but I will not do the two on the same occasion, and that is my personal golden rule. But I kid you not, this is before I had a driving license, and I was at this party drinking heavily. We were just drinking and playing Sega Saturn, and just before I left the party, so when I was at my most drunk, I got the lap record and beat all my friends on Daytona, which is quite amusing. But yeah, don't drink and drive, because seriously, you're a moron if you even think about it. Sega Rally, everybody plays Sega Rally in the arcades. Great game. Get that hanging out sideways in the dirt. What else have we got? This is just so good. This is great. So many memories. But not on all the ones I'm looking at right now. Never really played any of the Ferrari Legends games, funnily enough. So my Outrun Coast to Coast game, or Outrun 2016, Outrun SP, whatever you want to call it, I had that on the PlayStation 3. Oh, here we go. Getting into it now. Outrun 2, they're calling it here in the arcades. I played this start to finish, every single permeation of it on the PlayStation 3, and I'm gutted that I don't have a PlayStation 3 anymore, because it isn't downloadable for the PlayStation 4. So I knew this game like the back of my hand. Then went to a cinema, and I was waiting for a friend to turn up at the cinema. And what they had, among a couple of arcade games like they still do have hanging around, they had a sit-down version of this. So to kill some time, I popped $1 in, because in Australia, and I just played it. I just played the easy route up the left. Here we go, up the left. And I was just drifting every single corner and taking every single turn. And I kid you not, the arcade version was indistinguishable from the PlayStation 3 version as far as I was concerned. Over the back of my shoulder was this little kid waiting with his mum, and in a little cafe area, and I knew he was looking over my shoulder the whole time, and I just went through it on 1 credit and just, you know, all the way to the finish line, and this little jaw just dropped. It was a good feeling. I don't think I've ever finished any other arcade game, but that I just knew like the back of my hand. And look, we couldn't do that back in the day because the home versions were nothing like arcade versions. So it was a totally different experience. What else we got? Rally Sports. Test Drive Unlimited. This was awesome on the Xbox 360. Build your way up if you've got this, or get hold of it if you like driving games, and just get to the Millionaires Challenge, because the Millionaires Challenge, so if you don't know, it includes a whole of a Hawaiian island, around the volcano, all the roads, everything, you know, obviously scaled down for a computer, but still miles and miles and miles of roads, free roaming. And then one of the races you can get into is called the Millionaires Challenge, and literally it's 1 lap of the island, and it takes about an hour to do at full whack. That's another. I remember I was coming along. Oh, look, let's simulate, shall we? Let's get a couple of cars here. It wasn't a Ferrari 458, and it wasn't a Porsche Cayman S. But what happened was I was coming along, went down this ridge. The physics aren't that great in these games, to be honest. Went down this, and all the cars went down this ridge, and I just pegged it, and I kid you not, I jumped over the top of the pack and landed in front of them. It was beautiful. Cayman, one of my favourites, mainly because I can't afford a Ferrari. So this is an awesome game, awesome free roaming game. What else have we got? And number 2 is even better. You get 2 islands on number 2, and that was on the PlayStation 3. So I played number 1 on the Xbox 360, number 2 on the PlayStation 3, and again you get up to the PlayStation 4, and there's no equivalent. I had high hopes for the Crew. But I haven't even played the Crew, so I'm really going off reviews, but apparently it was a bit of a disappointment. What else can I cover for you? I don't want to go through the whole book, because A, does it come under plagiarism? Hopefully not, but also because, you know, again, This is quite a thick book, so maybe I'll just leave that there. Just enjoy my initial. Is there anything else? Is Wet Le Mans or anything like that in here? Maybe, maybe not. Look, I'll find out when I get given this back on my birthday. That is just great, and my battery's about to run out, so that's perfect timing. So hope you enjoyed that, and definitely, like I say, if you're into car games and you're into cars, just pick this up because that's a hoot. Cheers.